Today we're going to be discussing the dissemination of digital information. Dr. Harris here again. The dissemination of information. Let's begin first of all by defining what dissemination of information means. It's the targeted distribution of information and intervention materials to specific audiences. Now let's begin this conversation with focusing on the dissemination of news. I worked in the newsroom of the Arizona Republic and the Phoenix Gazette for many years before becoming a university professor. I found this article on 2 decades of shifting news sources of interest to our topic. Even though it's several years old, it still enables you to see the trend in how people got their news from 1993 to 2013. The surveys were conducted by the Pew Research Center, which is a nonpartisan American think tank based in Washington, D.C. There is trend data from 28 national surveys conducted during that 20-year period, and the survey questions were asked to American adults. The main question was, how do you get most of your news about national and international issues? Do you get it through television, newspapers, radio, magazine, or the internet? Let's begin by talking about television. Now, television is a primary news source for the public, but it has dropped from a high of 88% in January 1996 to a level of 69% in 2013. So newspapers continue their decline as a source. They've fallen from a high of 63% in September 1995 to 28% in 2013, slipping from 31% in 2011 when Pew previously conducted this survey. I want you to make a note of it. I left the newspaper industry in 1997. Meanwhile, the internet has risen steadily, passing the radio in July 2003, newspapers in December 2008, and continuing to close the gap with television. Now, when Pew first included the internet in January 1997, if you can believe it, only 6% of American adults named it as a source for news on national and international issues. In Pew's 2013 survey, 50% said they use the internet as a primary source for news, and that's up 43% in 2011. Imagine what it is now. The next thing we're going to talk about is modes of information dissemination. And let's begin, first of all, by talking about print. Now, print communication are things such as brochures, publications, which would include reports, newsletters, briefs, newspapers, magazines, and journals. And all of the print material can also be reviewed as PDFs online. One of the things that happened to me when I was an art director working with newspaper artists on daily print projects is that I always had to remind them that nothing is ever perfect, especially with tight daily deadlines. I would tell them, don't let your ego get too big about your illustration or design, because the next day it'll be at the bottom of a bird cage. On another note, if it is less than perfect in your eyes, move on, because by the end of the day, it will be at the bottom of a bird cage. There is still tomorrow's edition. The next mode of information dissemination are meetings and conference communication. Now, this can be face-to-face or online using presentation tools like PowerPoint. A meeting could also utilize web-based video conferencing tools such as Skype, Watch-It2, Infinite, GoToWebinar, Zoho Meeting. So let me ask you this question. Are all of these video conferencing tools still used today? The next mode of information dissemination is radio and television. Today, the broadcasting system, audio and/or video, is digital. I want you to think for a moment. Can you think of examples of how broadcasting has changed? What about streaming media or live broadcasts? And here is the big one for the digital world, the internet. There are lots of methods of disseminating information using the internet. We have social media, listservs, websites, and PDFs. So why should you communicate information online? Well, several reasons are that they're easy to update. You get a wide or targeted audience. You're accessible to users. It's relatively inexpensive, and it's fast and efficient. It's a good way to think about modes of information dissemination when you look at two-way modes of information dissemination. I'll do that again. Two-way modes of information dissemination. We have synchronous, which is two-way communication with virtually no time delay. It allows for real-time response. FaceTime, meetings and conferences, telephone, gaming media. We also have asynchronous, which is two-way communication with a time delay. This allows a response at the user's convenience. Texting, email, website, Facebook, voicemail, Twitter, portals, podcasts, and blogs. Social media is defined as internet-based communication applications that allow people to share and exchange user-generated information. What social media applications come to mind? Oh, there are a slew of them. Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, Reddit, Flickr, Swarm by Foursquare. Keep reading them. Kick, Shots, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, YouTube, Tumblr, and blogs. Now, blogs are social media. They have user accounts, comment section, and blog networks. An example of blog platforms are Tumblr, Medium, WordPress, and Blogger. So as you look at this list of social media applications, ask yourself, how many of these apps are still used today? How many of these apps are still going to be used in a year from now? Now, there are issues with social media, and of course, one of them is spam. We also have cyberbullying and cyberstalking, and self-image manipulation, where you pretend to be someone you're not online. People deal with information overload and also what is termed fake news. And these issues all revolve around privacy and security and the reliability of information. Ask yourself, how is information verified and who do you trust? Listservs are defined as an application that distributes messages to subscribers on an electronic mailing list. And I subscribe to a few, and they are for targeted audiences. Websites are defined as a group of digital pages on the World Wide Web. They're usually connected by hyperlinks and made available by individual person or group, most commonly an educational institute, a government entity, a company, or an organization. Then we have PDFs, which are portable document format. And it is a file format that makes it possible to display text or text and graphics that looks like a printed document and can be viewed, printed, and electronically transmitted. Some examples of PDFs: electronic journals, ebooks, newsletters, and reports. Under reports would be government policy, business, research, medical, and report cards, and then also flyers. Today we've talked about information dissemination. We began by examining the trend of how people get news. Then we discussed information dissemination in print, meetings and conferences, radio and television, and the internet. Thank you very much.